I think is pretty extraordinary that it was highlighted that long ago. So
That's a pretty interesting point, right? Because it creates this tension that I think is true of, especially as we're talking about some of these members were kind of, maybe they were rabble rousers, right, in their day as undergraduates, right? And so on one hand, you could argue that a university's mission is to prepare people to go shake up and change the world. But on the other hand, there's a need for the university to have stable leadership to get through a real crisis. So there's a little tension to that. So how can leaders, both of the corporation and also the university leadership, kind of navigate that? Because as you said earlier, you want these different voices in the room. You want people who are them true selves. And I see, as you said, right, people don't necessarily change over time. They grow over time, but they may not change over time. So how do you navigate that? And then I think Michael wants to ask a question as we go into kind of current times and the tensions we're living in with now. But how do you navigate that tension in the room?
in the room, I think part of my mission was to publish this book and have each and every trustee and fellow and others at other institutions read it, because there's no editorializing in this book. I was the actual editor pulling these together to tell a story of an institution and a story of education. But what it kind of tells you is not that today's foibles, however big they might seem, don't matter, but that it all matters, and that it has always mattered, and that very tough decisions, life and death decisions, civil rights remains among the most moving portraits of what was at stake in this book. And there's also very beautiful and important photographs that capture the tension between undergraduate and corporation life. So in the room, I don't know how to say it. Things are debated very earnestly and very seriously. One thing that is, I think, possibly unique, but hopefully not, in the Brown Corporation room that I witnessed, is that one voice does not get to be recognized as louder than another, even if it has a different volume or has a different level of impassioned speech. Each voice is taken in and valued on its own. And so I guess, one way to put it is that one voice does not have more power because of the person speaking it. A new trustee, a very established trustee, a person who's the CEO of a large corporation versus, a teacher somewhere. You by your self-definition or society's definition, you don't get to have a louder voice or a more important voice. I think the committees are set up well, and I think it all comes from the top. I think that the president and the chancellor set the tone, and they run these huge elements that command respect, especially of the faculty who are partially in the room as fellows, but this huge representative body outside. And there's always going to be different opinions, but really and truly, it sounds like, yeah, duh, but it's in the room, respect, shared goals, shared values, and years of strategic planning that everyone has a voice in, that can't cover every issue that's going to come up, but the framework for which, the rubric, allows a real discussion that leads to real decisions. No one's afraid to make a real decision.